Just want to welcome everyone to Future Generations University. Here we believe in the power of people working together to transform communities. We offer a master's degree in applied community development using the principle of learning while doing. Individuals from around the world apply methods and tools to create sustainable change within their own communities, which serve as their individual classrooms. The master's program guides students to tackle real-world community challenges in areas such as strengthening local economies, livelihood development, environmental conservation, health, peace building, regenerative agriculture, education, food security, and so much more. Our unique seed scale framework ensures that solutions are not only effective, but also locally driven and sustainable. Today, we are proud to celebrate our alumni, dedicated changemakers who are using what they've learned to uplift their communities, addressing pressing challenges, and inspiring others to do the same. This Alumni Success Sharing session is a platform to highlight their incredible achievements and work while sharing valuable insights and fostering connections across our global network. We're excited to have you join us as we learn from one of our outstanding alumni and explore how Rosie has applied education to drive meaningful change within her community. So we have Lindsay on tech today, and Chris Roper is our moderator. So Chris, could you go ahead and introduce yourself to the group?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Happy to see everyone online. My name is Chris Roper. I am the Director of Student Affairs at Future Generations University. I live in my home outside of Richmond, Virginia. Excited to hear what Rosie has to say. I have looked at her presentation, and as the parent of a couple of wild children, I'm very excited to hear what she has to say. On to you, Rosie.
Wonderful. Good morning, everyone who's joining us where it's morning time. Good afternoon to some of my friends from further away. It is really, really wonderful to be here with you today. I want to thank everyone at Future Generations University for inviting me to share some of the work that I've been doing here in my community in Virginia's Shenandoah Valley and a lot of the lessons that I have learned thanks to my time with Future Generations. So here we are today. We are celebrating the International Day of Education, which actually takes place tomorrow. And I was a little bit taken aback, I will be honest, when Chris first asked me to present my successes with Wild Child Museum and Menagerie on this day of all days, because for me, it's still a little bit surreal, the fact that I thought for sure there are some other alumni in our amazing global network who are formal educators by training and working in public school systems, and that this might be a better forum for them to share what they're doing in their communities. But it's upon further reflection, you see how I've been immersed into the world of early childhood education, and that truly has been based on the education I gained when I became a parent, and how much learning that I've done alongside my two children. So UNESCO's theme for this year's Day of Education is the power of youth in co-creating education. So I'd be remiss if I didn't quickly introduce my two children where this story has started. So here they are. I have a 3-year-old son, Ezekiel, Squeaky Zeke, as we like to call him, and my 2-year-old daughter, Magnolia, or Noli Cannoli. And as you can see, they look pretty cute there, but really they love to get into messes, and they have taught me so much about what it means to be a parent and to raise little ones in today's society. And it has been far from easy, let me tell you. So the story that I'm about to tell is really one that is unfolding with me trying to grapple with how to navigate the challenges of parenting today, and what we can do to make this a little bit easier for other parents in our community. So a little bit about my background. I went to school. I went to college to study anthropology. Originally, I consider myself an international travel, obviously an animal lover, and you'll see that shine through in everything we do at Wild Child, and an activist. So early on in adulthood, I became pretty involved in the local climate activist community in Harrisonburg, Virginia, and that call to action shines through today in what I'm trying to share with our little ones. So when I think about when I was young and what I wanted to be when I grew up, I went through sort of the gamut of all of those amazing aspirations. I wanted to be an astronaut, I wanted to be an architect, I wanted to be an archaeologist, and that's what led me on my path to study anthropology at James Madison University. But then I was pulled by what I was discovering about so many contemporary problems in society, and that's what made me veer a little bit more towards a cultural anthropology route where I would work with communities today and help them work alongside them to solve problems that we're facing together, which obviously led me right into the world of applied community development. And I was so fortunate to be able to study this field with my master's at Future Generations University, where I also worked for several years. So what I do today, my paid work, I'm no longer with Future Generations University, but I'm working at a sister organization called the Livelihoods Knowledge Exchange Network. And shout out to my colleagues on the call today, where I focus on nonprofit administration. I've also spent a lot of my time in the development realm working on fundraising for really important projects that have meaningful impact in communities worldwide. But I am pleased to say that I've also stumbled into this unpaid role that I consider to be basically a zookeeper. So I really feel like I've been from A to Z in terms of the various roles that I play. And the funny thing is that when you think about how challenging it is to deal with tiny humans, it's like you want to understand what's going on in their head. And it's again, not having any formal education in early childhood, that has been an amazing maze for me to try to navigate. And at the end of the day, a lot of times I just had to grapple with the fact that these are tiny little animals and they need a lot of grace. We need that they are wild by nature and they're doing exactly what they need to do right now. And we need to suit up and figure out how to help them thrive in today's society. So this led us to this led me to coming together with 8 other parents in the local community, just reaching within about an hour and a half driving distance, where we have founded Wild Child Museum and Menagerie, where we watch, teach, and wow wild animals of the tiny human variety. I'll get into much more details about everything that we do at Wild Child, but I wanted to contextualize a little bit more of what I see as the driving forces behind why I think Wild Child needs to exist. And this comes back to my background in anthropology and thinking about our existence on a species level, and sort of where some modern challenges really come into play. So this is way involved, and I don't want to get into all the details, but I think a lot of us recognize that in our society, at least, there has been a major trend in just the last couple of decades where when we typically had mothers staying home and taking care of children as their primary mode of work, that there's been at least a doubling of women who were in the workforce prior even to any births between 1981 and 2021 over those 4 decades. And obviously in today's society, it is becoming an economic necessity for so many to continue to be in the workforce once they have children. And we see especially that for women who are college educated, that there is a higher increase in them both working before pregnancy and then of them working after childbirth as well. And it's been a wonderful thing that we are seeing an uptick over the last couple of years in the increase of paid leave for parents and mothers especially. But the fact is that even if there is any paid leave accessible in the United States, it's not protected by law. It certainly trails by far in comparison to many other high-income nations where that is enshrined in the law and a protection for parents to be able to take time to really invest in their children in the earliest, most delicate stages of infancy, up to a year or even 18 months in many cases. And so just in 2022, we see that there were 37 million working women who became mothers, and 5.5 million, or about 15%, never went back to work following the birth of their child. While I think what's kind of frightening is that nearly 14% of them never were able to take any leave whatsoever. So what we're finding is that folks are really needing to wrestle with the demands of parenthood and raising young children whilst also juggling the demands of professional work in ways that they really haven't had to do in human history. So looking at the global context, there's so many factors at play here, and I'm just going to really do like high level overview. This stuff fascinates me. I love to read research about this. There's some thought leaders in this space that I follow. But so I do think that part of what we're seeing as the challenges with professional parenting in 2025, now gosh, it's 2026, but basically, so we see that with the specialization of labor and like especially folks who have these high caliber careers where maybe they have moved across states, even across countries for advancing their career and getting different jobs, that now we're seeing that families are removed from their extended families. And so that's kind of what I mean by this splintering of families. So a Cornell study showed that only 47% of families with young children live within 10 miles of grandparents. And it is hard to deny how incredibly important it can be to have that social network it be right nearby to families when they're trying to raise young ones because of how challenging it can be. And so when we see families moving across states around possibly many different times consecutively, then what we're finding is that the social fabric is disintegrating a little bit, and we might be strangers in our own neighborhood. I've moved so many times in my adult life, it's crazy, including, of course, an international move from Harrisonburg to El Salvador for 3 years, where we started our family, and then back to this general area, but far enough away that we're not nearby any friends we had when, shortly after college. And then, of course, as I mentioned, the necessity of having dual income earning parents in a traditional family structure, which, how traditional that really is a huge question when we think about human history as a species. But I think that we see a real disparity with the amount of time that parents are able to breastfeed and take care of the biological needs of human infancy in the most natural patterns, whereby, recognizing that we are a mammalian species and our babies rely on mother's milk or a substitute growing up from the youngest ages, that and we have international bodies like the WHO, for instance, who recommends and expounds the benefits of breastfeeding for at least the first 2 years of life. And yet we see that in high income countries like the United States, we have only about 29% continued breastfeeding rate by the age of 1. And they looked at 57 lower income countries, and that was a huge difference where there was 83% of breastfeeding at that 1 year mark still going on. So I think that a lot of this comes down to the fact that, so many factors, so many cultural factors, but I think the economic pressures of returning to work, and again of not being embedded in those multi-generational families where it's easier to get some extra support with generating money, with preparing meals, doing whatever you need to do, all of those things that it takes to support a healthy family when you don't have grandparents, aunts or uncles, close family friends nearby, that it is harder to provide that really, really, really time and energy, resource intensive support for a child for a long period of time. And obviously, with time scarcity, we have seen just an over reliance on technology in general. So, obviously, it is so hard to escape technology today, and what a wonderful thing it's done for society. But I do think it's really telling the extent to which we as parents are now using technology as a bit of a crutch because of we need it. We simply can't do all the things that we're expected to in a single day. And so the use of screens as babysitting, I mean, essentially is something that we see a lot of studies about we're paying attention to what this can do to a child's developing brain, developing skills at social regulation, and I think, of course, it has its time and its place, but what we're trying to do at Wild Child is provide an alternative so that obviously folks are going to be using, obviously folks could do whatever they need to do when they're home, but then we are providing a space where children have that face-to-face interaction as much as possible with peers and with trusted adults. So much more to say here, but I think I do want to highlight that some of the amazing things about living in a place like the United States, and I mean, but many, many places, is that we have a lot of access. We can have a lot of access to food, nutrition. Obviously, that is not always the case. But what some evolutionary scientists are thinking about is that we actually might see an unnatural birth interval occurring in today's society, where it's much more likely for parents to have children in close succession to each other, maybe just after a year or less or 2 years, because of many factors, but being that we have more nutrition than we're also living more sedentary lifestyles than we might have in our past. And of course, when we have reduced breastfeeding for extended periods of time, that signals to the body that it's time to possibly procreate again. So what I think is really fascinating about this is, like, every time I was trying to raise my 2 under 2 children and thinking about how is this possibly so hard? How are we here as a society if I feel like I can't even see straight sometimes based on how challenging it is to take care of the needs of 2 children at the same time. And God bless anyone who has twins or anyone who has even more children than me. It truly is just it's a miracle. We're here some days, but it's really that um they like so some researchers have found that it's more likely to see about a 4-year interval between children in hunter-gatherer societies, and they suspect that in human history that was probably more likely to be the case as well. And so family sizes likely were smaller, and certainly there was more space between them for people to focus on children during those critical years. And then, of course, this combined with the additional help of having so many more family members and community members around to help would mean that children are getting more attention than we really can today. And then, of course, there's with all the Instagram and the TikTok and books and whatever, there's so many competing narratives of how best to raise your children. Are you doing screen free? Are you doing die free? Are you homeschooling? Are you whatever? It's just a really hard time to like be alive sometimes and even decide how you want to parent. I feel like a lot of parents feel like they have to study, like go back to school, like just read so many books, like try to really become an expert, decide how you're doing all these things. And then last but not least, I think it's so critical that like we have been kind of alienated from this intergenerational learning. So it's scary. I hardly held a baby before I had my babies. And I don't think that's normal. But I think, we have, I had not a lot of like access to little cousins growing up. Again, not like super friendly neighborhood vibes. And so I think that, and then not being nearby grandparents, we sometimes have a lot of lessons of just how this all works. And I think in where we have children often going to daycare programs and pre-K programs where there's a very, very concentrated age group, only pre-K 3, only 3-year-old children are in this class or whatever. What we're losing a lot of the learning that can go across ages in mixed age peer groups that probably was much more common in over the course of our human history, where like children might be playing just out in the neighborhood constantly, right? Instead of being inside their 4 walls of their home or in the village. And so this is something we're trying to bring back to Wild Child a little bit. Oopsies. So in terms of the local context, so we're Life in the Shenandoah Valley. We are in a rural community. We've got deep agricultural roots. We do have an aging population and a diminishing tax base that a lot of local municipalities are concerned about. They're trying to think of ways to attract young families back to the area. But part of the problem is that there are not a ton of jobs around here. We're kind of right in between two population centers. We have Harrisonburg, Virginia, to our south. We have Winchester, Virginia to the north. So as a long, skinny country, there's limited areas for families to go to have some fun, play safely, especially in all weather. We also have a lower median household income versus the US and versus the state as well. And there is definitely a significant shortage of childcare slots in our area. We've got about a $4,000 shortfall in terms of subsidy spots, and that is an option for families who have below or up to 200% of the median household income. They might get some support from the state government towards the exorbitant costs of childcare, but that's not enough to go around. And we do have a higher than usual proportion of stay-at-home parents in our area. I do think part of that is because of the fact that we are agricultural. We have a lot of moms who are kind of doing like full-time farming in addition to raising children. But I do think it's also part of the economic issue of being that childcare costs are so high that it's often not worth it for parents to go back to work, even if they want to. And so one other interesting thing to note is that we have a high homeschool population in our area, that there was a 50% increase statewide since 2020. Obviously, with COVID, a lot of folks were very concerned about the health risks of going to school, or also just political factors at play. But in Shenandoah County alone, there's been a 266% increase just like in 2023. So there a variety of issues that play with the public school system in our community. And folks, we're actually in the limelight right now on the national stage because of a controversy of the renaming of our school system in honor of Stonewall Jackson and some Confederate leaders. And so there's a lot of complaints and just concerns about the quality of our education, the health of our public school students. So that's part of what's at play. And so basically, we were trying to create a gathering place for families with children of all ages, but especially serving children ages 10 and below, where they can come and play, meet other people, get outside of their homes, especially how isolating it can be for stay-at-home parents who don't have that social network. And really, so much of the inspiration has been recognizing that, like Mother Nature, raising babies can be raw, it can be messy, it can be unpredictable. You can have the best of plans. It's not going to go according to plan. We need to be growing each other's resilience, supporting each other, and recognizing how beautiful this time of life can be. So, Wild Child Museum and Menagerie is born. This gives you kind of just a big overview of everything that we do. Our slogan is discovery and play, nature's way. You see some of the flyers that we have here on the programs we're offering on an ongoing basis. We have our pre-K learn and play program where little ones are meeting up to 3 times a week for a couple hours in the mornings, and they're learning the alphabet. They're learning about a different animal each day of the week. They're coming together. They're learning social skills. They're having a chance for unstructured play as well. We have an after-school offering for children 6 and up. And we also offer day camps on days when the public school systems are closed for holidays. And then we're open for everyday play, which is just a chance for families to come in. Parents or caregivers will stay with their children full time, and they have a new place to explore, and they have an opportunity to meet like-minded families. And you'll see below in the bottom right corner, we're very proud to be able to offer some scholarship slots to families who might not be able to afford our services, and we try really hard to stay affordable for everyone. And unfortunately, with the realities of just operating an organization, we do have, some real overhead costs. We've got to pay our rent, we've got to pay our insurance, we've got to pay our amazing team members. But yeah, let me talk a little bit more about what we are. So we are a nature-inspired children's museum. We are miniature. We are very small scale. All you see, the room behind me is our space. We are in less than 700 square feet inside of the Shenandoah County Community Center. So this is a community center. They restored a historic high school in Mount Jackson, Virginia, and we are now a long-term tenant of the community center, which is a nonprofit organization as well. As I mentioned, we're open 7 days a week. We have 6 featured creature exhibits, and what I've tried to do is bring nature indoors. So we picked 6 different kinds of mammals, and I just think this is wonderful because everybody loves animals, and we can use them as a mirror and learn more about ourselves. So we have the museum, and then we also have the menagerie. Now, menagerie is a fancy French word for a private collection of animals. And so this is where I feel like we come together, we bring children from different families, and we watch, teach, and wow them. And so they can come and stay with us for short bursts of time in supervised play visits. And then we have the classes and camps, as I mentioned as well. We have a 501c3 public charity. We have an educational mission. And within that distinction, we are a 509A2 organization, which means we're primarily supported from mission-driven income. A requirement for maintaining that status will be that we continue to pass the public support test. We have at least a third of support from the public over 5 years. This is not going to be a problem. That just means in terms of any time that guests are coming and paying for admission or events or grants and donations that we raise. But as you'll see with our budget, we have 75% of our operating budget is coming from program services and about 25% from charitable sources. Alrighty, so let me tell you about our mission. Our mission at Wild Child is to support families' biological, socioemotional, and intellectual needs through connection, play, and learning that honors our inner nature. And by that, I mean our inner nature as social creatures who need stimulation, we need connection, as members of the animal kingdom and specifically mammals, where it's really important for us to keep our babies close by for as long as possible and nurture their brains, nurture their ability to succeed in today's world. And so what we're doing is, in terms of our vision, is building a new type of village for families who embrace their place in the natural world and to become a nurturing space to meet, eat, learn, and play. So we are becoming a sort of a third space for people where they can come meet like-minded folks. It's designed to help extend the amount of time where parents who aren't ready to go back to work maybe full time or and can't just stay home full time either. It's our target market, as you'll see, is really designed for people who are trying to find other ways to navigate this time of life, where they might be working part-time, as I did shortly after becoming a mother. I was working part-time as a development consultant. I was working part-time as a teaching assistant, doing a lot of remote work where if you are on a Zoom call, there is almost no way that you can also make sure a little baby is thriving in the background, right? Unless we put on a tablet, put on Miss Rachel. I love Miss Rachel, whatever it is. But so that is one of our main audiences. And one of the beautiful things about being inside of the community center is that there is a Rotary Learning Lab sponsored by the local Rotary clubs right next door, where parents can come, bring their laptop, get some hours of work done while kids are playing safely in our space. So here's a look at our room. You see it's behind me as well in my background, but to bring the animals to life, we have 6 exhibits. Our featured creatures exhibits, we have mega mammals who are large and in charge. You see in the background, we have our elephant, our mama and baby elephant as a focal point there. We have our familiar felines exhibits. We have our prime mates, monkeys, great apes, and more. We have our pouch pals, our marsupials, kangaroos, wallabies, echidnas, you name it. We have our Backyard Buddies exhibit featuring local fauna we could see right here in the Shenandoah Valley. And then we have Farmyard Friends. And so each area of our room, we have illuminated photos and some facts about those different species. We have toys and games and books where families can learn about these different animals when they come and play in our space. And then we have classes and camps that highlight these different species. Here's our unique value proposition. And I have to give a lot of credit. So I loved my time at Future Generations. One of the courses that I took, I kind of stumbled into, was the social entrepreneurship course taught at the time by Scott Lawson. And I really struggled with that course because I had no idea that I would one day be a social entrepreneur creating a whole new organization from the ground up. But I've taken a lot of lessons away from that course, and one of them being this idea of the unique value proposition. So how are we differentiating ourselves from other organizations in the vicinity? Obviously, we have 2 large children's museums in those 2 population centers I mentioned. We're right kind of smack in the middle. So one point is that we don't, people don't need to travel so far, but also We're operating on a much smaller scale. We've got a more intimate vibe. We're specifically leaning into our connection to Mother Nature. And we want to celebrate this stage of life for parents of young children and give them the opportunity to find balance and get the rest they need and build community. And I'm so grateful to see all of the people who have flocked to Wild Child, and we're seeing this really resonate with them and the feedback we receive. So here's a little bit about the target audiences that we cater to. So part of this is like people who we call them like our tribe seekers. They are trying to find other people in the community who are trying to raise their babies in a little bit more of like a natural way, with healthy food, healthy activities, less screen time. And again, I don't want to demonize screen time, but just a really telling thing. I was leading a circle time activity at a camp with about 8 children the other day. And we were going around a circle and everyone was sharing what they love and what they want to give to other people. We were saying this little light of mine. They were talking about what they want to be when they grow up. And 4 out of those 8 children all said that what they love most was playing games on their tablet. And that kind of broke me a little bit, because I just want so much more for our little ones in terms of having a rich life where they're really connecting with others and learning through hands-on experiences. So that's what we're trying to do. We also have, we're of course catering to that dual or income earning family, where they need care when school's out, or they are just trying to find something fun and enriching to do on the weekends or the evenings for their little ones. And then we also have this third but really important audience, which is the grandparents. There's a huge proportion of families of grandparents who are like primary caregivers in our society, in our little community, or they're the kind of the default caregivers while parents are working. And it takes a lot of energy to trace around 1 or more toddlers, if you didn't know. So this is a great place for them to come and get off their feet and relax a little bit, and then have more balance in what that amazing service they're offering their little ones. All right, so as you see on our slide here, we have a lot of programming and it changes season over season. So I've left off our summer. We've only been open for just about 6 months now. Our grand opening was June 14th this past summer. And we kicked things out of the gate with an amazing slate of summer camps that were very successful, featuring those different mammal species I mentioned before. But since then, we've had a couple different pivots. We did our autumn schedule where we introduced our pre-K learn and play class, our Animal Kingdom after school program, some other offerings. We're always switching things up, trying to change the hours to suit members better. And you look on our right-hand side, excuse me, and we have 3 different membership tiers. And so this is one of the ways that we help make coming to Wild Child more affordable. Is we do have drop-in options, but then we have these memberships where folks can sign up and on a recurring basis and save half or more on the admission and class fees that they would do. So we have options for just people who are interested in coming for everyday play, have a little bit of variety in their life, all the way to our Pouch Pals membership, which can provide up to 15 hours of supervised play per week and it's designed for folks interested in doing that on-site co-working. So from 9 to 12 daily or 3 to 6, they can leave our little ones with us and then they get some work done. These are some highlights from our very recent day camp we did. We called it the Sweet Dream Team. It was on Martin Luther King Jr. Day that just happened last week. We took it as an opportunity, of course, to share the important lessons and legacy of Dr. King in the civil rights movement and the quest for justice in our society for all people. But then we also gave it opportunity to have children think on who they wanted to be the gifts that they wanted to share with the world. We learned about a lot of different heroes and important thought leaders in our society. We read an amazing book by Jane Goodall and what she did studying chimpanzees in Gombe National Park in Tanzania. And we had a wild animal rescue event where every child got to find a miniature stuffed animal of some of our endangered species, learn about them, take them home. And we had a puppet show. We did so many things. But these types of activities are really, really powerful ways for children to come together, learn from each other. It was a beautiful thing to see all of them do a group puppet show that involved cheerleaders and firefighters and dragons and superheroes and medical doctors, and it all came together. But they're learning to be little humans and how to be members of a community, and it's really beautiful. So let me tell you a little bit about our program pillars. So these are born out of a lot of careful thinking that our board of directors have done in terms of our marketing plan and planning for the future. But under the umbrella of child-led exploration, the message that we want to give families is that let kids be wild. We have had a number of families flock to us who they've had problems with their more traditional daycares and preschool environments where the children are getting chastised for not sitting in their seat, not listening. And obviously there's a time and place for that, but we really do try to let our children get out their energy. And this is a place that as long as we're being safe, and we are very insistent about our rules of gentle hands and gentle hearts, then we want them to feel safe to play and inhabit a world of imagination. And they're not always going to follow our schedule of exactly what we need to do and when, and that's not what we're about. Of obviously we uphold the importance of nature and it being our first classroom, and it's a place for us to learn about how the way that the world works, and about who we want to be in it, how we want to show up, right? Do we want to protect our nature? Do we want to be good community members across species? And in terms of playful education, so that's really the heart of what we do. Everything is about having fun, and it's amazing how much kids learn when they don't even realize it. We hear so much about children coming back home and their parents are blown away. A 3-year-old talking about an elephant's habitat, and they're understanding concepts that if you just sat them down and tried to talk about it without introducing play and fun, it's not going to come home the same way. And then, of course, that a lot of what we're doing right now is catering to the children, and we have so many different rich learning opportunities for them, but we also are trying to stay focused on our mission and vision, and that we want to provide those supports to parents as well. And our message is that we want them to be able to find their village in the wild child tribe, where it can be hard to do in today's society. All right, so I'm going to do a time check. Yeah, really quickly want to highlight the power of the seed scale approach that Future Generations has used for over 3 decades now. The audacious claim that we have is that a seed scale can double the impact in half the time for 1/5 of the cost. And this is sort of a side-by-side, more traditional model of community development that's more dictated by outside professionals and budget-driven plans and very carefully put together plans, and where money dictates a lot, right? Versus seed scale, which has much more of an organic growth to it. It's driven by human energy, and you'll see that what we have achieved at Wild Child would not be possible if it were not for exorbitant amounts of human energy. And honestly, I think it's been a huge lesson for me about how much energy I can summon. And as Chris can attest, I'm not sleeping nearly as much as I should because I'm just so energized by everything that we're doing and what I see as possible for our community. But I'm going to share a little bit more about some of the ways that I think Seed Scale has shaped what we have achieved at Wild Child. So here's a little bit about how it really started. So one thing I have to credit is that when I was a new member of this community here in Shenandoah County, I had stumbled upon a local play group that is called Babies and Buddies. It's now like 350 members strong. And I found community here in this way. And it was mainly made up of other stay-at-home moms who are really struggling with the transition of their first child or their second child or their third child. But there was grandparents, there were fathers in this group as well. And so I had a lot of early conversations that helped shape this idea. I did regional research. I went around and looked at all kinds of other organizations and play spaces catering to this age group in our area and took very careful notes. And of course, we're building from the success that I feel like, every child can tell you what their favorite animal is. And I think this is a natural starting point for kind of conversations too. And then of course we have sourced so much of what now lives in our space from pre-loved items. I mean, literally you'll see the beautiful habitat house behind me here. This is a 5 foot tall Barbie dream house that has been reconstructed by our amazing Menagerie manager to show each different biome around the earth, from the Arctic tundra to the savanna. And my mom dug out our Beanie Baby collection from when I was a child, and now these are props in the habitat house. So we just have pieced together so much at very, very low cost and created this immersive learning environment for families. Can't not talk about the three-way partnership and the importance there. So I was invited to join this initiative called the Mount Jackson 5, a play on the Jackson 5, in the town of Mount Jackson, where we're now located, which was designed as a startup competition for local businesses. I was the only nonprofit organization to participate. And what we did was we had lessons from local business leaders and mentors over 6 weeks. We crafted a business plan, and then we were pitched that idea, and Wild Child was selected for a $10,000 grant, which seeded so much of what you see here. And then, of course, we have our board of directors, which is a 9-member board made up of mostly local parents. Who does the work? So you'll see here the large photo is just some of our board of directors. Not everyone was able to make it in person. On the right, you'll see that's my mom. She is actually our 100% volunteer program director, and she is there many days a week leading classes. She runs a toddler fodder and fun class, which has sensory learning, food-based play. There's always a craft or a safe cooking activity for the littles to do. And then we do have 4 paid team members who are all part-time. You see Heather down below. That's our Menagerie manager I mentioned before. And then we have several young staff members who are running the show while I'm doing my paid work primarily. And then we also are so lucky to be partnered with Triplet Tech, which is the local technical high school in our area, and they have an early childhood education program, and they send 3 of their students each week to come and help out, and that's what gives us the capacity to invite more children in our space. We are a small space. As I mentioned, we're in one single classroom. Our capacity for all human bodies in there is just 20, and so typically we have 1 to 2 staff members or team members, volunteers, and then we try to cap classes around 12 to most 16 at a time for big camps and such. Just terms of giving you a frame of reference. So how else we grew from success? So I have to credit a lot of use of free resources here on the left and the right. These are photos from two different local libraries where I've spent so much of my time from finding books to be able to be featured in our various classes to doing outreach to the community. This is me and mom at a early childhood extravaganza expo where we were getting the word out about our summer camps well before we opened. On the right, you'll see that it was one of our very first listening parties for local parents that we invited people who were interested in this concept to come and talk about their needs for raising their little ones. And that is what shaped so much of our schedule, the location that we picked. And in fact, one of the parents who showed up there from a Facebook post is now our amazing board chair. So that has been essential to growing us. And in the middle, I love this photo of this is a book that I got from a little free library here at a local park. And it was all about raccoons. And that's a picture of Mama Raccoon feeding all her babies, and how awesome that things that other folks are ready to say goodbye to, we welcome in, and it becomes a focal point for a lesson at Wild Child. So a little bit about how it's going. This is getting down to the 4 principles of success in seed scale, what we do at Future Generations. Evidence-based decision-making is key throughout the process. And so, as I mentioned, we have these listening parties. We have done careful demographic research. We're in a small population, so it's really important that everything that we do is really meeting the needs of people if we want to be able to keep our doors open and justify all of this work that we're doing. And so we're doing careful data analysis all the time. And then our end goal, right, is behavior change. So we're hoping to welcome more and more people to Wild Child. We're trying to carefully track repeat visitors and how many referrals we have, how many friendships are being made at Wild Child. And then, of course, there's the learning that is achieved with our little ones. And there's been so much, and it's been amazing. And I look forward to being able to track this even more carefully over time. Let me share some, let's see, what time have we got here? Yeah, so these are some registration highlights. You see about half of what we do is the supervised play. So that's really what families need, is a little bit of time to themselves. Parents can be working in the lab. They can be doing a yoga class, playing pickleball, or doing other events at the community center while they're leaving their little ones with us. And obviously, enrollment trends shift over time. Here's some statistics, though. You'll see that this is just for the most recent quarter, October through December, and we had 195 unique guests served. So we're really proud of everything that we have done. Thus far, we've served well over 100 families. And you see there's a lot of repeat guests too. Now, here's just a couple photos of the types of crafts that we do. It's often focused on an animal. These are different photos from our pre-K learn and play. So we had G for giraffes, L for lions, and they're practicing their handwriting. They're practicing sign language for each letter. Even bring in foreign languages like French and Spanish. These were little magnets, not maggots, magnets that they made of possums. And then we have quails for Q. I wanted to show you a little bit of behind the scenes. So this was a summary of revenues to date that I shared at the most recent board meeting we had last week. We, in about 6 months, well, sorry, this is for the whole year. We've generated just under $50,000, and this is between both program service revenue and everything that we've raised in terms of donations and grants from the community. And that community support has been just overwhelming and so wonderful, and to show that what we're doing really resonates with people. Looking at our operating expenses here, so we're still working on still working on making sure that what we do can be sustainable long term. A couple months always it has been less revenue in the door than expenses going out, but overall, there has been a net positive revenue, which is very reassuring. And we're looking at whether or not we are going to be able to renew our lease in the community center at the 1 year mark this coming June. And they unfortunately did mention that we'll have to be raising our rent at that point in time as well. So we're busily trying to make sure how we can ride those waves. This is a look at a SWOT analysis we had done at the board level, and don't need to go into all of the details here, but it is available, and I want to be very open about all of the challenges and successes that we have had while being mindful of time. So going back to seed scale, an important thing driving change at the community level is the revolution of rising aspirations. So I wanted to show this positive feedback loop and show, we started with this wild little idea. We've taken some early action, and the board is very interested in working with fellow community members and figuring out how we can continually improve what we're offering and make this as strong as possible for them, to get more people involved and to make it a better service for those who do come to Wild Child and have joined our Wild Child tribe. This is some of the slides from our fundraising plan for the next 6 months, January through June. I think that this is interesting to show that we had raised, like I mentioned, about 25% of total revenues from charitable sources. So that is subsidizing what we do, much like what a local library might do, or, even a lot of other youth activities, Girl Scout activities, Boy Scouts, whatever. It's very much reliant on volunteers and donations. This is not a money-making operation by any stretch of the matter. But I find it interesting to compare it to Harrisonburg's Explore More Discovery Museum, and they're very open about the fact that 40% of their operating revenue is also sourced from the community through donations. So this is going to be probably our norm going forward. Some fundraising activities and wins. We're so lucky to be invited by local businesses to do some profit sharing activities. You'll see we had a number of opportunities to do a story time at a local bookstore down the road, and then they give us a portion, 50% of the used book sales for that whole weekend that we do those. So that's been great for us. We also were invited to do a similar event at a local farm that has a pumpkin patch and petting zoo during the fall. And then we had an amazing success with Giving Tuesday, where we raised $1,355 on a single day. And then because we were part of the nonprofit council for the local Chamber of Commerce, we also received matching funds along with 25 other nonprofits that participated in that one-day campaign. So this is a look at our 2025 successes on the fundraising domain. Another key thing is that we have these community partner payments. So we're not only working with individual families, but we also partner with like-minded organizations. And we have, for example, we have an ongoing partnership with a nonprofit that serves families facing domestic violence. And they have a 10-week parenting course series, and we provide the childcare during those parenting classes. So we get some additional revenue from that and get to welcome families who might not be able to afford Wild Child normally. Looking forward, these are our fundraising objectives: to be able to build partnerships with local businesses for sponsorships and do even more than we have been doing in the past. That's going to be really key to our success going forward. We want to continue to establish and deepen trusted relationships with institutional donors like the Shenandoah Community Foundation, which gave us our first $2,000 grant to provide scholarship slots so people can become members at Wild Child without having to bear the brunt of that cost. And then strengthen opportunities to engage and thank our individual donors who have contributed so much to our mission to date. This is a graphic showing seed scale, kind of from start to finish, how we begin with resources in the community. I hope I've illustrated that. There are 7 tasks that can be used anywhere. I didn't have time to go through each one at a time, but I see huge overlap in what we've done and what I learned at Future Generations. And frankly, a lot of it, I think, kind of becomes second nature because of what I've learned and what I've seen succeed elsewhere. And it really is a very universal and accessible system theory of change that applies to so many different unique circumstances. And then lastly, I wanted to look at the 5 criteria for measuring success and sustained iterative growth. So forgive me, this is very wordy slide, but the first criteria is equity or inclusiveness, making sure that we're serving as many people in the community as possible. And I definitely think that our scholarship slots is a huge way that we're achieving that goal. And then also our open admission policy. So we often have families who call us and ask us, hey, can my child who has a learning disability, a speech impediment, is autistic, can they come? We have an open admission policy. We don't claim to be experts in special education by any means. And so, we do want to be open about that and careful about that. But we want everyone to feel like they belong at Wild Child. And we will do what we can with open hearts. In terms of sustainability, so I'm reassured that we've raised about equal amounts in program revenue and startup support this first year. We'll see how we do next year. But we have a great leadership team. We've got a business plan, and we're starting to build out a 5-year plan to take us forward. And then I do think also in terms of like cultural sustainability that this ties in well to the area's local agricultural culture, right, and economy. And we have so many families who volunteer to donate crops from their local farms or bring their animals from their farms to come and be live exhibits for our camps. In terms of holism, so I think what's the reason for us and our success to date is that we offer a little bit of everything, and so it's a little bit of everything for everyone. If we only were open as like a traditional museum for everyday play, we would not be making it. But it's the fact that we have the supervised play, we have the camps, which are very successful, and we even offer private parties and field trips for families. And this is becoming a growing popular option for folks. And then the learning and support for parents and caregivers as well as children. So this is something we hope to lean into more, but being able to show to be a learning resource. We have a lending library with books on all different kinds of parenting strategies, conscious parenting, and we want to offer more of that going forward. And then in terms of interdependence, are we cut off here? So we have some great synergy between the staff and the board. We have these program partnerships. I think it really is a testament to our success that we're embedded inside the community center. We can partner with them on their various activities. They're going to be doing a line dance and bingo starting next month, and we'll be able to offer care for the little ones of families who want to join those activities, conferences, trainings, you name it. I'm lost. Oh dear. That 5th one is iteration. So in terms of iteration, we have opportunities to change and improve each time we change our semester and make tweaks to the schedule. And we are looking forward to continual improvements year over year. It's just, we're right out the gate at this point. So these are some recent reviews and stats that I won't take the time to read today, most of these, but I thought this was really cool. On the Harrisonburg area parents Facebook group that I'm a part of, even though we're about 30 minutes away from there. This person who I never met, she came, another team member, helped her out when she was here, and she writes, just visited Wild Child Museum and Menagerie in Mount Jackson today and was so impressed. They offer childcare and educational programming. Parents can drop off their kids or stay with them. Their large playroom is adorably decorated with all sorts of cute animal stuff to spark their imagination and creativity. Very reasonably priced. My 2.5-year-old had a great time. Highly recommend. And what made my heart sing was that immediately three of our long-term guests chimed in and offered their own testimony of what Wild Child means for them and their family here. So this is really beautiful to see that it's doing exactly what we had intended for it to do, which is be a place of relief, a place of connection, of imagination for local families. So let's see here. Quickly want to just mention we are working on a 5-year plan here. We want to continue to lean into our mission and definitely offer more supports and learning opportunities for parents as well as children. We want to strengthen our strategic communications and storytelling to make sure our message is being heard where it ought to be heard. We want to build our village with and deepen community roots amongst members of the Wild Child tribe. We want to continue to bring nature to the forefront and more opportunities to have hands-on learning with live animals, and perhaps one day find a new home for Wild Child's expanded vision, moving beyond our small space into a place where we can welcome more people and have more opportunities for connection, learning, and play. And in the meantime, I am having a blast. I get to read amazing books, hang out with amazing kids, mine and other members of the community, and play with animals every chance we get. And I feel like there's no better way that I could be spending my time. So thank you all so much for hearing me out, and I really welcome any questions you have.
Thank you, Rosie. I'm going to turn this over to Chris to help with the moderating questions. So Chris, over to you.
All right, thank you very much. Thanks, Rosie. That was amazing. That was really fun. We've got a couple questions, and for everyone listening in, please feel free to add your questions either into the chat or into the Q&A. Some people have had to step up. I'm just going to read Julie's question in the Q&A, which is not really a question, but it's very much Julie. In deep wonder and awe by Wild Child, thank you, Rosie, for this beautiful gift. On topic, I've got to get my kids off to school and run to a meeting, but doing so with tremendous inspiration. Thank you for all you do, but most of all, how you do it. Agreed. This sounds really great. Um, First question I have is, do you see this as a model that can be replicated through mentorship in other communities with similar demographics?
Wow, that's an amazing question. You know, I would love to see that happen. I really would. It feels kind of far off in terms of our planning right now, right? Because things are so new, and I still see this as very much we're in an experimental phase, right? Of even how long can we possibly pull this off here? And sometimes I do worry that a challenge is how rural of a community we are, and so that there are only around 5,000 children across the whole county who are in that like 0 to 10 demographic. The amazing thing is that the word is getting out, and so people are traveling even from quite some distances, like 30 to 40 minutes sometimes, to come see us. But it is very tough because of, like I said, the lower income range of a lot of members of our community, whereby I don't see this working without significant community support in order to be able to offer those scholarship spots. So I think that would be really key. I would love to see this become a sort of yeah, I think if we can continue this experiment and get enough credibility on like a state or like maybe even national level among larger donors that see the value of this, I think that would be really, really amazing because it's clear that this is matching some, I think, national and even international trends in terms of like the challenges that parents are facing in terms of trying to take really good care of their kiddos and their families and make a living at the same time. It is just really tough.
That sort of leads into a question that I had. In your SWOT analysis, you mentioned that some parents are confused, or there's some confusion about whether it's a museum or childcare. And my question is sort of on the legal side of that. Like, where does Wild Child fit sort of in the pantheon of childcare providers? And it was a public charity with an educational mission. Is that considered daycare, or is that, I mean, and do you need licenses for that, or is this because it's a charity, have sort of fewer regulatory requirements? Where does it fit?
That's an excellent question. So, there are many nonprofit childcare centers, and so it's not just being a nonprofit that would give us any exemption. Now, there is a very common religious exemption for childcare centers. So many us childcare centers in our community are attached to churches, and they don't need exemption due to that. And there's some other requirements they have to fulfill. But so we do operate as a child day program that is exempt from licensure because of a couple of different ways that we structure our offerings. So the main one being that us being inside of the community center, which is a recreation center, we can provide supervised childcare for up to 3 hours daily whilst parents are making use of the facilities or receiving services from us. And so for members who are part of our tribe, they might go home and pick flowers or do something, but they are receiving services from us. This is like a relief, a chance of breath, a chance to work out. We have some parents who drop off their toddler and then do a power walk around the block with their babies or whatever. And so that's one exemption. And then the limited day camps that we offer, under 20 over the course of a year, is another exemption. So it is a larger question that we've been grappling with as a board of whether or not to pursue licensed childcare so we could offer full day care. And we do have some members who regularly are requesting this because they prefer us. We're a preferred provider versus their more traditional childcare offerings. But there's complexities there, and a lot of the challenges become because of our location and the fact that we don't have control over the location in the way that we would if we were at a standalone place. So there are certain licensing requirements like controlling the type of play equipment outdoors or the whether it's fenced and the distance from a main road. And there's certain things that are kind of beyond our control. The access to bathrooms that even though we actually provide like care within or even like higher ratio of I should say lower ratio of teachers to children than would be required by a licensed child care center, which is normally like max of 8 to 5-year-olds in a room for one adult, right? We've got more staff on hand than that, but it's just some other complexities that make it hard that longer term we are looking into whether that makes sense for us.
Excellent. Great. Thanks. So Bill Price has a question. His question is, has anyone researched the impact to a child that has access to an early childhood program compared to one that does not have access?
Well, that's an amazing question. That's a whole realm of research. I'm sure so many people have researched that, right? I would say I'm at a little bit of a limitation is in that this is not my field originally. We have some um, educators on the board, and we were trying to recruit more and people who would have more expertise in this area in terms of child development and what's best for them. I know that is like huge debates happening in like the parenting world right now of like what is best for a child's psyche and social development, and attachment theory is really key, right? And like, some people would dare to say like, oh, it's so like psychologically damaging for a child to be like thrown into daycare at such an early age, like 6 weeks or younger or whatever. I'm not trying to say that's the case. I'm not really totally educated on the full effects of that. I was trying to do some high level contextualization and look more like kind of species to species. I think uh what I have heard some interesting things that frankly I see not happening out like in my observations. Like some people say, for instance, like that children 3 and under can't play, and that there's no value in a child like having that social interaction, that truly it's better for like the most important thing, the most paramount thing is the attachment between the parent and the child up until age 3, and that should be king. And you don't need to worry about doing all these play dates or getting the kids in all these activities. I have to say, I've observed the opposite, where my children who are ages 2 and 3, they crave the connection. They meet a friend at Wild Child and they speak that child's name for like almost a year. Like, they're just you see them play, you see them learning and grappling with what it means to work with peers and learn alongside peers. Um, so yeah, this is a really, I think, complex realm of thought, and we have a lot of thinking to do as a society. But I know that like, there are some amazing trends happening. Like there's a lot of people fighting in our society for free childcare, right? Which is a great thing. Although I do think that there's something to be said for parents having more time to spend with their children and prioritize their children in the early years, and that I don't necessarily people have to do what they have to do, and people should also be allowed to do what they want to do. And if parents have really enriching careers and they want to focus on that, great. But I want options for parents, that I want them to be able to choose to spend more time with their babies for longer periods of time, and this being a way to sort of stretch that amount of time that they feel like they can focus on their kiddos, or at least know that they're in like really, really good hands when they have to be focusing on other parts of life.
Great. Just a reminder to everyone who's still here. If you have a question, feel free to put it in the webinar chat or in the Q&A. Lindsay's got a couple of great questions. I'll start with this one. So you started Wild Child with your desired goal or impact in mind. What other successes have emerged in your first year that you didn't expect or plan for?
Um, Well, it's we're still seeing everything that unfolds. I do want to say it's been really cool to see interesting turns that the program has taken. I and things that haven't taken off nearly as much as we thought that they would. I have to give so much credit to Heather, our Menagerie manager, who's the pre-K learn and play was her brainchild, and I was not skeptical at first, but I never I uh I hadn't thought out like what a more of a structured pre-K class could look like. And she had this vision, and she wanted to go through the alphabet week by week, so eat and focus on all the animals, and it has been one of our most popular offerings. I also again, we didn't know where we would wind up, and it was frankly really hard to find a suitable location because we wanted a place that had some outdoor space as well. And so many like commercial spaces are just going to be a storefront in a concrete jungle, right? And that would not work for us because we do try to take children outside any day that it's weather permitting, you know. And so it's been cool to get all of these like unforeseen partnership opportunities by being in the community center, where we have folks who want to offer uh their parenting classes or conferences, seminars that churches are leading, and we get to partner with them and provide childcare to group in a more of a group setting.
So would you when you're partnering with a church or someone else, would you sort of go to that location and provide services there, or is it more drop your kid off at Wild Child and go to the church down the street? How do
Well,
you,
it's typically that they're coming and using the facility, and
oh, the
so
whole
we're
facility.
on
Gotcha,
site
gotcha.
there. But you
Mm.
know, that is an interesting domain as well that we're just starting to entertain. Our board has had some really great ideas of where we can be like, you know, Wild Child comes to you. We've had some successes with like local schools, classrooms, elementary classrooms wanting to come to us for a field trip, but also what would that look like if we kind of hit the road and went to schools or went to daycares or whatever. And that just takes a lot of logistics. And one of our main challenges right now is space and the limitations of being in our 700 square foot space, and our closets are stuffed to the brim with craft materials and all the supplies we need. And so if we start serving like a larger geographic space and going mobile, then we're gonna need to quickly find some additional storage solutions to house all that equipment.
Right. Um, Lindsay's got another question about sort of the population that you serve. So she says the Shenandoah Valley has a large Mennonite population. Was that community considered at all in your community demographic? And if not, are there plans to integrate the Mennonite community more with Wild Child, um, given their strong interest in strong agricultural community, ties to nature, non-traditional schooling, etc.?
Fantastic question. So, I mean, I'm intimately, aware of the Mennonite community. That's definitely very high population in Rockingham County and Harrisonburg, where I used to live, and sure in Shenandoah County too. There's definitely so many different religious communities, and actually, we welcome all, like absolutely, and I we haven't really like I guess done particular outreach to particular uh religious denominations or sects. I think a lot of the times those in those religious communities like they get some of what like we offer at Wild Child through their churches already, right? And so but then also like we just everyone comes together, everyone who's like united by a love of nature and the animal kingdom, they come together at Wild Child, and especially like during the week, I'd say like our weekends are often not as popular. I thought that our weekends would be more popular in terms of people coming in and finding just coming into play. We tried offering like classes and supervised play options during the weekend and as well, and we found that people weren't really showing up as expected. And it's during the week when families and stay-at-home parents are kind of isolated and needing that relief most, when spouses are not at work or grandparents are not, willing to pitch in, that folks need our services most.
Got it. Yeah. Chris Reiser's got a question here. Has there been any connection with homeschooling providers in the area to help as a space for socialization?
Yes, we have several members of our board who are part of the homeschooling community, the growing homeschooling community. And so we've had a couple of visit scheduled field trips from popular homeschool co-ops. And we definitely see amongst some of our repeat guests coming in for our supervised play classes on a Wednesday morning or whatever, that they are homeschooled kids. And it's typically like the older sibling, and mom might stay home with the littlest, and then this is an outlet for them to come kind of let loose a little bit, meet some and play with some friends. And then we are looking at expanding and offering like some specialized classes and spaces for them to connect and learn, because we found actually that our after school offering was not the most popular. And I think part of it was that, yeah, we're getting more traction from the homeschool community than folks who are, just got through a big whole day. They don't necessarily want to come and learn some more, right? And also parents who get caught up in like the school pickup and drop off, and it's kind of hard to squeeze into their schedule amidst other sports and other activities.
Okay. So we're coming close to the end of our time. Chris has got one more question. She just threw up there. Um, just curious, what's the oldest participant that you've had, excluding parents? Who's the oldest kid that comes and
Yes. So our oldest are around like 9 to 11. So we used to say that we're serving ages 0 to 12, kind of like through elementary school, right? Like through like maybe fifth grade. We found that a couple of those 11-year-olds felt like they were too cool for school. And so if they would come, it would often be with a sibling, and we'd give them like a special job to be a helper, right? And like help the younger ones, which is super cool. And I think, again, a beautiful thing that we can offer because we're small and we cater to all the ages and get that mixed age group dynamic. But I would say 8 and 9, and eight and nine, and that's kind of where our sweet spot ends, where they're still like super super into getting dressed up. We have a whole dress up station. They can pick what animal they want to be, and that imaginative play. And what's wonderful too is having some of the older kids spruced in with the younger kids, is then they can read a book or read the game prompts to the younger ones and help them solve problems that come up with they can't share a toy or whatever. But many of our children, I'd say they trend more around like ages 2 to 6 on a day-to-day basis.
All right, great. Well, we are actually at time. I forgot to mention this earlier. Sorry, Chris. That all the questions are going to be posted on the to the Facebook group for the Future Generations alumni, and the recording of this and other success sharing sessions will be posted to the university YouTube site. And I will plop these links into the chat.
And while you do
Or
that, Rosie, thank you so much. So our next success sharing session is going to be March 7th in celebration of International Women's Day. And one of our alumni and actually board chair, which Cheeto Badiwa, is going to be presenting on a couple of the policies that she helped move through the Zimbabwe government on minimum punishments for rape and aggravated sexual assault, and raising the age of child marriage to 18, which is pretty amazing. So she's going to be presenting on those and the just experience of influencing and changing policy within a country, which is sometimes a little bit not something when I mean it's something in a community way that we work with, but I think a lot of our alumni see that it's kind of like outside of their realm. And since she has like experience in that, she's going to be sharing that with us in that next session. So hope that you guys can all make it. And thank you so much for coming. And I hope you had as much of a fun time listening to Rosie today. I really appreciate you sharing with us. It's such a beautiful space and a beautiful concept, and I really hope to see it expand. Thank you,
Thank you
Rosie.
so
Thank you,
much.
Rosie.
This has been a great honor, and I appreciate all y'all's time today and enthusiasm and support for the future.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Lindsay.